This story, at the age of 16, the hero of this story ate the flesh of two different monsters and became overpowered. The story begins with a boy named Kuro being approached by a short girl named Koto. She tries to start a conversation by asking if he won't thank his savior, but he doesn't remember being saved by anyone. Then the girl says that 2 years ago he almost fell to the floor of this hospital, but she saved him, and in exchange for saving his life, she asked him to remember her face forever. At the time, Kuro laughed and thanked her when he realized that people really can die like that. His attitude reminds Koto of a goat, an animal that should not be underestimated. However, the worst happens, and she falls in love with Kuro at first sight. Koto introduces herself again and asks Kuro to remember her face, saying that even though she looks like a child, she is 17 years old, and this time he promises to really remember her. And in fact, Koto is making advances towards Kuro, because she found out that he recently broke up with Saki, a beautiful girlfriend he had, and Saki had dashed Koto's hopes of getting together with him. Sometime later, when talking to the nurses at the hospital, Koto found out everything about Kuro's relationship. After that, she tried to avoid talking to him, and so 2 years passed, until one day a nurse announced that Kuro and Saki were going to get married. But that day when Koto looked at Kuro, she noticed that he had a sad expression, and that Saki was not there with him. Quickly through the nurse's information network, Koto found out that he had broken up with Saki, and that is exactly why she came to talk to him. Koto says that now that he is single, he must be looking for new meat to chew on, and since she has always liked him, she offers to become his girlfriend and future wife. Kuro is surprised that this short, innocent-looking girl is such a straightforward person. However, he says that he cannot date a middle school girl, which makes Koto get angry and repeat that she is 17 years old. Kuro laughs and is happy to have a pretty girl like Koto declare her love for him. However, he says that he does not deserve to date anyone. He explains to Koto that a few months ago he went on a trip to Kyoto with Saki, and during the night while they were walking near a river, a scary kappa appeared. Saki got very scared and threw herself at it. Kuro, however, claims that he ran away, leaving Saki behind. After that, Saki realized that she was about to marry a coward and gave up on dating him. After telling him the reason for their breakup, Kuro tries to leave, saying that his bus is coming, but Koto stops him, saying that she hasn't finished talking to him yet. She says that in Kyoto Saki must have been scared, but she doesn't believe that Kuro ran away. Koto believes that the kappa must have run away from him, and Saki must have been scared of being in a relationship with someone who is even a hideous creature like that one. Kuro tries to avoid the conversation, saying that he only told a lie so as not to tell the truth, but Koto says that he didn't lie, because in this world there are several supernatural beings, and she can hear them talking, and whenever she gets close to him, the beings warn her that Kuro is a horrible and scary being. Upon hearing this, Kuro's expression changes completely, and he asks who Koto is, and how she knows these things. She then reveals that when she was 11 years old, she was kidnapped by supernatural creatures who begged her to become their goddess. She agreed to be their goddess, and since then she has become a mediator in the conflicts between supernatural beings. Kuro refuses to believe this, but she tells him to look for a newspaper from 6 years ago, where he will find a news story about a girl who disappeared for a few weeks and was found on a park bench, with her eye gouged out, a leg missing, and the culprit never found. After revealing her secret, Koto simply gets on a bus, and inside the vehicle, a spirit comes to ask if she is okay, and how she survived that horrible creature. She tells the spirit that Kuro may be horrible to him, but to her he is very cute. The spirit mocks her taste, and Koto says that she will exorcise him if he keeps talking nonsense. The spirit apologizes, and goes straight to the main topic, which is a monster in the library that doesn't let her read the books. She says that this job will be very easy if she has Kuro's help. Having said that, she remembers the past, when she was found by the police and taken to a hospital, where she did not need to receive any treatment, since her wounds had already been treated. When she woke up, an officer tried to investigate, but she saw a supernatural creature, and understood that losing an eye and a leg was the price she paid to become a goddess. The next day, in front of the hospital, Kuro appears in front of Koto, after having found the newspaper that reported what happened to her. However, he still doubts that she had become a goddess, and she agrees, saying that she may just be a crazy girl. Suddenly, a raccoon comes running towards them, and is frightened by Kuro's presence. Koto asks Kuro not to scare her friends, and he says that he did nothing. The raccoon tells Koto that the creature in the library is causing a lot of trouble, so she calls Kuro to go with her to solve the problem, so he won't doubt her word anymore. Koto asks to be carried so she can get there quickly, but Kuro carries her on his back, and she says she would like to be carried like a lady. Finally, they reach where the creature is, and the samurai's spirit scares Kuro. Koto sees the creature that is causing trouble and tries to talk to her, but the creature advances to devour her. Kuro quickly saves her, and he tries to run away with her, but Koto says that the problem must be solved, so she tries to hit the creature with the fire extinguisher, but that doesn't work either, and she almost dies from the damage from the fall, but Kuro catches her. She then says that they must run away, but Kuro decides to deal with this creature, because Koto is acting very recklessly. He holds her very tightly, and stretches his hand forward. The creature advances and devours his hand, but Kuro doesn't feel anything. Koto asks if he's crazy, and remembers when he didn't react at all when he almost fell head first onto the ground. He then asks her if she didn't already know, and she reveals that she just thought he was cute, and that supernatural creatures always called him a monster. Kuro's arm quickly rebuilds itself from scratch, and the creature that ate his arm begins to melt from the inside out. Koto asks what he did, and then Kuro reveals that when his priest was 11 years old, he ate the flesh of 2 different yokai, and that made him very powerful. Later that day, when Kuro shows up at the hospital to visit his cousin again, Koto shows up to talk to her. She says that fate guided her to find him, but a yokai comes out from under her skirt, frightened by Kuro's presence. The two walk around and talk for a while, and Koto asks if his arm is really okay, and Kuro says yes, revealing that since he ate mermaid meat when he was 11, his body repairs itself, no matter how much he gets hurt. She says that those who eat mermaid meat become immortal and do not age, and he does not look 11 years old, and then Kuro says that another yokai he ate nullifies some effects. She asks who the other yokai was, but Kuro does not answer and goes to visit his cousin. But before he leaves, Koto says that night she will visit the guardian spirit of the mountains in the neighboring province. She asks if he could accompany her on this visit, and then Kuro worries about the girl, as she is putting herself at risk again without having any powers, besides seeing and interacting with supernatural creatures. She then asks Kuro to accompany her, since the creature's fear of him may make her negotiations easier. However, Kuro refuses to help her, saying that he would rather spend the night thinking about his old girlfriend, which makes Koto very angry. When night falls, Koto sets off on her mission alone, complaining that Kuro left her alone. She arrives at the swamp, and the Great Serpent appears, thanking Koto for coming so far to visit. The Great Serpent offers her all the comfort she can, giving her a small cut log to sit on, and before they talk about serious matters, Koto confides in her boyfriend that she let her come alone, saying that when she broke into his house, he only gave her a child's coat and filled her with insect repellent. The Great Serpent is shocked that the goddess has been abandoned, and wonders what kind of man would be so cruel. As they talk, Kuro slowly approaches just to watch. Then the serpent reveals his concern, saying that a human woman has come to dispose of a dead human body in her swamp, and she wants to know why a human would dispose of a body in her swamp. Koto then explains to the serpent about this case, saying that a woman killed her husband and tried to throw him into this swamp to hide his body. However, the serpent does not accept this explanation, and says that the woman did not put any weight on the body, and soon after the body was thrown into the river, it began to float. Furthermore, the serpent heard the human saying that she wanted the man's body to be found soon. Then Koto reveals more about this case, saying that the woman revealed that she left the man's body in the swamp because she heard rumors about a man-eating snake living in that swamp. That is why she told the investigators that she hoped the snake would eat him. The serpent does not accept this explanation, and argues that the woman could have said something like, "I hope the snake eats him." Koto then tells more about the case, saying that the man who was killed was actually a horrible person who framed people, stole from people, and in the end, his family died. He discovered a serious illness in his body, and believing that it was all a curse, he went to one of his victims to apologize. However, the woman did not forgive him, and in fact ended up killing him. The man was weak due to the illness, and she was able to easily dispose of him in the swamp. After living in the city for 2 years, the woman believed that the snake would devour the man's body, but that did not happen, and that was exactly what the woman reported. However, Koto has a theory that on the day of the confession, the woman's brother was in the house, and that it was he who killed the evil man. And finally, The woman decided to dispose of the body in the swamp, and asked her brother to leave, also deciding to take the blame for her brother's crimes, because her brother still had a promising future, unlike her, whose life was completely destroyed by this man who was now dead. She disposed of the body in the swamp, while her brother fled to get an alibi. Koto theorizes that the human woman really wanted it to rain, so that the tracks of her brother's car or any other tracks left behind would be erased. So she left the body in the swamp, so that the serpent, who was once revered as the goddess of water or rain, would make the rain fall. The serpent gets angry, saying that if she wanted to make a sacrifice, why didn't she throw the body of a young virgin girl with a big butt and short hair? And in response to this, Koto says that there are two types of rain ritual, one that makes the god happy and one that angers the god, and the body of an old, ugly, sick man really angered the serpent and made it really rain that day. In short, the human girl wanted the serpent to find the body and get angry. The serpent refuses to believe it, but Koto says that this is the possible truth. At that moment, Kuro steps forward, and Koto is very happy to see him. He quickly says that he is not her boyfriend, but she says that she still needs to answer the serpent's questions, who is now very afraid of Kuro's scary appearance. Koto continues with her theories, saying that the human told the police that the knife used in the crime was thrown into the swamp, and that she must have some reason for doing so. Maybe she wanted them to search the entire area for the murder knife, and find something that she lost a long time ago. Koto says that the woman separated from her husband thinking that he had cheated on her, but it was all a setup, and that her husband later died less than a week later. And she may very well have discovered that she had a son after separating from him, and suffered an instant miscarriage, due to the sadness of having been cheated on. So she discarded her son's body in the swamp, but when she discovered that her husband was innocent, she regretted everything she had done, and in the end, she wanted at least her son to be found and have a decent burial, which is why she chose the swamp. The serpent then doesn't understand how complicated humans can be, and even though he doesn't know exactly what happened, and it's all just Koto's theory, the serpent decides to put an end to the matter, because he's afraid of Kuro's presence. After the encounter with the great serpent, Koto explains to Kuro that it was all just a theory of hers, because she tried to investigate the case by asking the yokai to investigate everything, but in the end nothing major was discovered. Koto says that her job would have been easier if he had followed her from the beginning, but he doesn't want to kill yokai every time he goes out with her. Koto sees the positive side of this and responds by saying that this means they really are going out, and Kuro prepares to answer, but she presses her body against him and pretends to be asleep, making him just accept what she said. After this case was solved, we discovered that a woman with a seductive body had been appearing in front of some cars, causing serious accidents to happen. Meanwhile, Saki, who had now become a police officer, was receiving a report of this accident, but the police did not want to believe that a faceless woman holding a 2-meter steel bar was the real cause of these accidents. This faceless woman is currently being called Karen Nannies, and Saki found out through a professional friend that the faceless woman has the body of an idol who died earlier this year. After being involved in controversy, she tried to escape the media, but died when a steel bar from a nearby building fell on her. Now this idol appears wearing the same clothes she wore when she was an artist. Her police officer friend then asks Saki if she believes that there really could be a ghost of this idol, and she says that according to the reports, and the scary atmosphere in that place, people really must be seeing something that is not of this world. Detective Terada then reveals that the police have received hundreds of cases with reports of Karen, and there are even police officers who have reported seeing this ghost holding a steel bar. Saki asks Terada if he believes in the ghost, but he says no and reveals that he believes that there is a criminal behind these rumors, who is committing real crimes, and that is why they should investigate this case. While Terada says that he does not believe in ghosts, Saki was certain that ghosts exist, so she is warned not to underestimate the supernatural, since she saw a yokai in person, and even reveals that she broke up with her boyfriend because of it. She remembers when Kuro cut himself with a glass, and his wound healed instantly. Remembering this makes her feel like vomiting, and she runs out so as not to wet Terada's suit. When she leaves the bathroom, she warns Terada again to be careful of supernatural beings. Terada wishes her well, and Saki remembers when she first came across the Kappa and was very scared. However, the Kappa himself started saying that Kuro was a monster, who would do anything to become stronger. This combined with Kuro's lack of reaction to the Kappa, made her afraid of Kuro and ended her years-long relationship with him. A while later, while returning home, Koto suddenly fell on top of Saki. Koto obviously didn't waste any time, and said that she was fine and that this pain was nothing compared to the pain of losing her virginity. Soon after, Kodo asks Saki to back off, as there is a very dangerous being approaching them. But Saki gets tired of running away from both her ex and the supernatural things, and moves forward trying to face the faceless woman. She obviously gets beaten up for not being able to touch the ghost, and Kodo acts quickly, saving her and then kicking the ghost away. However, the ghost gets up and leaves. Kodo then grabs her prosthetic leg and says that she will deal with the faceless woman alone. However, Saki holds her hand and shows that she is from the police, and using her power as a police officer, she wanted Kodo to accompany her to give a statement. At that moment, Kodo realizes that this little girl is Kuro's ex-girlfriend and regrets having saved her. Saki asks who she is, and Kodo introduces herself as Kuro's current girlfriend. Kodo ends up going to Saki's house, where she shows the photos she took with Kuro, proving that she is his girlfriend, but Kuro really didn't seem happy in the photos. Saki mocks Kodo, saying that a little girl like her is not Kuro's type, but Kodo says that she would rather have her than a girl who abandons her boyfriend. And then Kodo introduces herself as a priestess who mediates conflicts between the two supernatural beings. Saki asks why Kuro isn't with her, since the supernatural beings are afraid of him, but Kodo tries to avoid the conversation and look away. Then Kodo says that he disappeared, and that he has been ignoring her messages recently. In response, Saki says that he never ignored her, and he has always been the man present. But this only irritates Kodo, who calls Saki a coward for giving up on Kuro because of a cape. Before leaving, Kodo asks Saki not to try to face the faceless woman, and promises that she will deal with her. Saki doubts that Kodo can do anything without having one leg and one eye, but Kodo says that this has never been a problem for her. Kodo then says goodbye to Saki, promising to send an invitation to her and Kuro's wedding, which angers Saki, and makes her slam the door in Kodo's face. Kodo then goes out to do another patrol in the city on top of a giant skeleton, while Saki decides to do extensive research on Akarin nannies, discovering that in addition to a great body, she was also a woman with a lot of attitude, and that in just 1 year she became a very famous idol. While researching more about Akarin, Saki discovers a blog with a lot of personal information about Akarin, including the accidental death of her father, which after a year generated rumors that she was angry with him and had killed her to receive the value of his life insurance. And what made these rumors arise was a note from her father, saying that Akarin intended to kill him. After that, Akarin decided to take a vacation in a remote place, but ended up dying in a tragic way. The next day, Saki talks to Terada about Akarin's case, and they decide to investigate her past, to find out if her death was accidental, or if it was a homicide. Meanwhile, Kodo was facing a bit of a dilemma. She can talk to ghosts and understand them, but Akarin didn't seem to have any consciousness or ability to think. Her body was like an empty shell. Kodo finds the same blog as Saki with information about Akarin, and comes to the conclusion that unfortunately she will need confidential information that only the police have. At that very moment, Saki was reading the detailed reports of the case, and fortunately she had a lot of information, because this case involved an artist, and the popularity of the police was at stake at the time. Saki comes to the conclusion that Akarin's sister should be investigated, but out of nowhere something knocks on her window and scares her. Saki gathers her courage and opens her curtain, coming across two small yokais. The red creature reveals that it was sent by Kodo, and says that she asked Saki to share more information about Akarin's case at Nace, because she wants to find out how to defeat her. The little yokai informs her that Kodo is waiting at a nearby cafe, and in the meantime Kodo was receiving information from a spirit that Akarin had appeared again. Before heading towards Akarin, Kodo tells the little spirit to tell Saki that she had to go after Akarin and show her the way, if she still wants to find her. When Koto arrives where Akarin is, she notices that Kuro is fighting the faceless woman. Saki arrives shortly after, yelling at Koto for making the ghost of a child touch her butt, but Koto asks her to stay quiet and just watch. Saki sees Kuro fighting and is afraid that he will get hurt, but Koto reminds Saki that he is immortal. As the fight progresses, Akarin crushes Kuro's head, which makes Saki almost vomit, and Koto realizes that this damn woman must have just seen him recovering from a minor injury and separated from him in fear. Kuro quickly heals and slowly moves towards the faceless woman, and stops before her blow hits him. Soon after, he positions himself behind her and suffocates her. Koto reveals that the other meat that Kuro ate besides that of a mermaid was the meat of a Kyuden, a beast that has the ability to determine the future. At this moment, the past of the Sakuragawa family is shown. At the time, the leader of the family had the incredible idea of making people consume the meat of a Kyuden, a being that dies after predicting the future. Of the people who ate the meat, some were able to predict the future, and soon after died, and all the predictions were correct. However, no one survived after predicting the future. Then one day that man had an idea. He thought of giving people two types of meat to eat: the meat of a mermaid who is an immortal being, and the meat of a Cutin who can predict the future in exchange for his life. This experiment never worked, and as time went by, scary experiments like this were forgotten. But one day, Kuro and many other boys were called to lunch, and after eating the food, everyone died, except for Kuro, who remained strong and healthy. The frightened Kuro asked his grandmother to help everyone, but instead of doing so, she started her experiments, asking Kuro what the weather would be like the next day. The old woman's experiments continued until Kuro stopped feeling pain. Now he lives a human life, but no one knows how much he suffered in the past. And returning to Kuro's battle, even though the faceless woman tried to free herself from the strangulation, Kuro stood firm, holding on, and soon managed to twist her neck. This scared Saki. However, the armless woman recovered, and Koto finally appeared, and told Kuro that they can't defeat the faceless woman by beating her. Kuro walks up to the two, but only pays attention to Saki, which makes Koto quite angry. Soon after, they go to Saki's house, where Kuro still only has eyes for his ex-girlfriend. She hesitates a little to talk to him, but thanks to Koto's annoying presence, for some reason she manages to feel more comfortable, and asks Kuro how he found the faceless woman. He then reveals that he read Koto's message and came to this city, and suddenly, some yokai, despite being very afraid of him, decided to ask for his help, because they started to trust him a little after seeing him walking with Koto. He ran towards the creature and started fighting it, and after hearing this, Saki asks Koto if the faceless woman can be defeated, and how they can do it. Koto decides to reveal everything she knows as a way to make Saki realize that they live in different worlds, and maybe then Saki will stop meddling in the case of the faceless woman. Koto reveals that some monsters are created from rumors and human imagination. It all starts out as something simple, but when this imagination of a scary rumor gains a name, it becomes something difficult to deal with. However, she is a strong creature that has not lost her strength yet. Koto also says that Karen Nane's image is not something random either, but something that was created by someone. And with the sharing of the image that portrays her appearance on that website, she ended up gaining that form. And finishing her explanation, Koto says that it was that website that gave rise to the ghost. She says that there is no point in them trying to deal with that creature until they deal with the rumors about her on the internet, and that is exactly why Karen Nanes has no emotions and moves only like an automated doll. Kuro leans on Koto's leg and asks how they're going to defeat this thing, since from what he read on that blog, people are reporting that Karen Nane's ghost will soon kill someone. Koto then smiles at him and says that they just need to use the very website that gave life to the creature to completely put an end to these rumors. But to do that, she needs the help of a police officer, and Asaki asks if she should take down the website. But Koto says that she should gather more accurate information about the faceless woman, so that they can create an alternative story that seems more real in everyone's eyes. By doing this, they can lessen the ghost's aggression, or make the ghost simply cease to exist. Koto says that human logic is actually to think that ghosts don't really exist, so it should be easy to create a news story that ghost is just a work of fiction created by someone. After explaining how to defeat the ghost, Koto says that in order to make their plan come true, they first need an explanation about who is carrying out the attacks in the area. They also need to explain the culprit's motivation, and to do that, Koto needs more information about the faceless woman. Asaki refuses to give Koto any confidential information, but the little crippled girl finds a package with all the information she needs about Nazi Karen. Asaki is hesitant at first, but with no other options, she agrees to give up the information. First, she starts with a brief summary, saying that the strangest part about Karen's case is the fact that she died at a construction site, and that the police never found a reason for her to be there late at night, while it was raining. The only evidence they found at the scene was several cigarettes, which led them to some assumption, such as that Karen went to that isolated place to smoke, since she was only 19 years old, and in Japan people are only allowed to smoke from the age of 20, or perhaps the person who called her to that place was smoking, but there are no records or proof that anyone contacted her, other than her manager. In addition, the fact that she died without even trying to avoid or protect herself from the steel bars is strange, and their suspicion is that she was so shaken by her name being ruined by the media that she did not react to the iron bars falling on top of her. Asaki says that the only person who would have real motives to kill Karen would be her sister, since this would benefit her twice, receiving her father's insurance and her sister's inheritance. However, Karen's sister had a furthermore. Karen's sister denied that her younger sister had tried to kill herself, and Kuro, tired of talking, asks Koto to solve this case quickly, as he knows that she is intelligent enough to already have an answer for this. Koto stands up and says that they should go to the place where everything happened. When they get there, Asaki complains that Karen died many months ago, but Koto doesn't see a problem with that. She makes a fake magic circle and waits for a creature to appear to talk to her. Fortunately, a human ghost appears and says that he has been in that place for almost a year. Koto asks about a 19-year-old girl who died in that building, and the ghost cries when he remembers that she died without even having time to react, and apologizes to everyone, saying that if he were stronger, he would have prevented that accident. Asaki complains to Koto, saying that if she intended to talk to the ghost, she didn't need to have read the entire police report. But Koto says that the more information she has, the better the result of the story she will create to counter the current reports will be. Asaki doesn't seem to have much confidence in what Koto intends to do, and kneels on the floor thinking that in the end they will only depend on luck. But Koto says that besides being very good at what she does, she can also count on Kuro's power, which can help her discover the best possible future. After that, everyone says goodbye, and Kuro takes Koto with him, and she asks him if he already has a hotel to stay in, and he says no. She says that she rented a double room, but he refuses to sleep with her. He asks her how she intends to find the best story, and she reveals that in the end it will depend a little on his powers, and Kuro agrees, saying that he will die as many times as she wants to solve this case. The next day, he explains how he sees and alters the future, revealing that his power allows him to choose a path between several possible futures, and after that, he cannot return to the old timeline, and can only choose one of the new options to follow. In short, his power is only to choose the future without changing the past, and the price for using this power is death. In addition to all this, Kuro explains that he can only choose highly probable futures, and further into the future, not even he knows what might happen. Koto says that his power seems pretty boring to use, and he agrees, saying that it is. To end the day, Koto shows Kuro that she was accepted to attend the same university as him, and he congratulates her for getting in. At night, when they were both returning, Koto asks Kuro if he couldn't see a future where he completely defeats the faceless woman while fighting her, and in response he says that there might be several futures, but he couldn't reach them, because he died too quickly and couldn't think much about which future he wanted to follow. Koto says that this means he can't do everything alone, but he complains, saying that if he dies, he comes back to life, but if she dies, everything ends. Koto complains that he left her alone for a week, and now he's pretending to be worried about her. She thinks to herself that his future ability is limited, and seems more like a survival instinct in battle, and so she's going to help him achieve an easy-to-achieve future, where he defeats the faceless woman once and for all. While riding the bike, Kuro asks if she told Saki about his past, and Koto says no. He thanks her for that, and Koto asks why he didn't choose a future where he would be with Saki, and in response, he says that if he could do that, he would choose a future away from girls with childlike bodies. Koto gets irritated by this and slowly realizes that Kuro has a hard time getting attached and showing his own feelings, and she still doesn't know if he likes her or if he's just being nice. However, she hugs him and stops thinking about it, deciding that for now she'll focus completely on solving the case of the faceless woman. Meanwhile, Detective Terada was making the biggest mistake of his life. He was standing in front of the faceless woman, showing her his badge and asking why she was dressed like that. Little did he know that he was talking to a ghost. He decides to fight her, but his arm goes completely through her ghostly body, and he ends up getting hit directly in the face. The next day, the authorities discover the body of a dead police officer with his face disfigured due to severe beatings. The media tries to cover up the reason behind the death and who did it. However, there is really no need to be discovered. After all, he was attacked by a ghost, and a ghost would not leave any trace. Saki finds out that this happened, and during a conversation with another official friend, she feels very bad for not having warned Terada better about the dangers of dealing with the supernatural. Saki's cell phone receives a message, and she decides to help Koto as much as she can, since she and Kuro are the only ones who can deal with the faceless woman. During the night, Terada's death ended up being linked to the faceless woman, and this made the ghost of Karen Nanis become much stronger. Meanwhile, Koto was working hard to get rid of this ghost as soon as possible. She was tired and really wanted to go back to sleep on the comfortable hospital bench. She also wanted Kuro to be there, keeping her company, when suddenly Kuro knocks on the door and comes in carrying some sweets. She eats the luxury chocolate, and says that she will need more than these small chocolates to satisfy her. Kuro says he did what he could, but Koto complains that he rented a room next to hers, when they could only sleep together. He avoids the conversation by asking how things are going with the ghost of the faceless woman, and she explains that Terada was a powerful judo fighter, and that being beaten without even reacting or defending himself led to the case being linked to Karen and NASA. Furthermore, Koto says that many people keep commenting on Karen's frontal missiles, and Kuro ends up admitting that they are really beautiful. Koto gets annoyed by this, but he says that if he really only cared about breasts, he wouldn't have dated Saki, and he wouldn't even be dating her, a smooth girl. Koto is scared by the possibility that one day Kuro might want a big body, and because of this he ends up cheating on her, but his intrusive thoughts are interrupted by someone knocking on the door. Before Kuro could open the door, Koto put her leg on his fake eye, and then Saki entered the door and, getting straight to the point, she asked if Terada was really Karen's victim at NASA, and Koto confirms this, saying that a yokai saw it all happen. Saki wonders if Terada will become a spirit seeking revenge or something, and Koto says no, and wishes that this really wouldn't happen, as it's not good for a soul to continue in this world, which calms Saki's troubled heart. Koto then gets straight to the point, saying that Terada's death only made things harder for them, because if he had just died in a normal case, it would have covered up Karen's case at NASA, and the ghost would have lost its power. However, Terada's death made the rumors about Karen stronger, and now, the ghost of the faceless woman has become violent, and with any movement she could end up taking another person's life. And this makes Saki desperate, because from all indications, the ghost of the faceless woman will draw more and more attention from people, and if she really does get stronger, not even Saki knows what could happen to the reality they live in. Saki then wonders if their reality is really so easy to destroy, and Koto reveals that it is. However, she has plans to end the ghost of the faceless woman tonight. Saki says that they won't be able to, but Koto says that she's not the goddess of wisdom for nothing. Koto takes a notebook and starts thinking about Terada's case first, reflecting and talking about the case, thinking of some explanation that hides the truth. Kuro says that she can report that Terada was killed by someone who held a grudge against him. However, inventing a false truth is very difficult, and Saki realizes that even though Koto is a genius, inventing a lie is much more difficult than discovering the truth. Saki reflects that deduction is something simple, and that what Koto is doing is something similar to walking the opposite path of deduction. Koto lies in bed unable to find an answer, and Saki reflects on the absurd amount of lies they need to invent for their plan to work. However, Kuro says that behind that blog there must be someone who invented several lies to make Karen Nanis become famous as a ghost killer. He also says that she divided this task into several parts, and proceeded slowly, and that he is willing to die several times to find the best possible future. After a few hours of thinking, Koto creates the best answers in her mind. But before making them a reality, she first decides to sleep, and asks Kuro and Saki to wake up at 9 p.m. Kuro then invites Saki to help him make something for Koto to eat, and while they are walking, Saki asks how long he has been dating Koto, and he says that he met her 2 years ago, and that after she insisted a lot he ended up agreeing to date her, and this happened only 6 months after he met her. Saki believes him, but asks him why he agreed to date a girl who is the complete opposite of what he likes. After all, Saki knows that he loves girls like his cousin, and this makes Kuro show a bit of a reaction. Rika is Kuro's cousin. She is 3 years older than him, and although she was in the hospital when Saki saw her, she realized that she had never seen a girl prettier than Rika. Saki believed that Rika had died, and that Kuro was free of that feeling of love for that person. Kuro then says that his cousin cannot die, even though she tried to take her life several times. A few hours later, Koto wakes up, and she feels a strange atmosphere between Kuro and Saki. She believes that the two may have had some sexual relations while she was sleeping, and this begins to confuse her mind. Kuro distances himself a little from Saki and goes to the entrance of the parking lot, while Koto stays with Saki inside a car. Saki starts a conversation by asking if Koto knows Rika, and she says yes, because the nurses at that hospital had very big mouth. Koto reveals that Rika was actually discharged and is living in her mansion. It turns out that Rika was in the hospital so that her body could be evaluated. Her true wish is for the doctors to find a way to make her lose her immortality. However, even the best doctors couldn't find anything, so the best thing to do was to discharge her. When she was discharged, she asked Kuro to stay at his house, but he was too embarrassed and decided to ask Koto to put Rika up at his house. Koto answered Kuro's call, and upon finding out about the situation, she asked for a copy of Kuro's apartment key in exchange for doing her the favor. She said she wanted to visit him and help him with the housework, and unlike her dream of seeing Rika helping him, Koto helping him seemed like a complete nightmare. That same day, Koto picked Rika up from the hospital, and after she gave her shelter, the rumor that Rika had passed away spread throughout the hospital, even reaching Asaki, who thought Rika had died. Asaki asks if Rita didn't seem like a strange person to her, and then Koto reveals that Rika told her to her face that she was no good for Kuro, and to make matters worse, Kuro said he thought the same thing. This made Rika feel sorry for Koto and tried to support their relationship. As time went on, they had fun together, and Rika and Koto even threw a surprise party for Kuro. However, a month ago, Rika said she had found a place to work and sleep, so she suddenly left home, and Kuro, upon finding out, threw Koto on the bed and almost got her pregnant. Asaki doesn't believe everything Koto said, but now she understands better what really happened to Rika. Koto asks what Asaki and Kuro did while she was sleeping, and she reveals that they talked about Rika, and Kuro felt a little resentful. Koto then reveals that the Woman of Steel's art was made by Rika, as her art style is unique. In addition, she also reveals that Kuro did not come to this city because of her, but rather looking for Rika. Koto reveals that it is quite likely that Rika is the real creator of Karen Nane's ghost, and Kuro also knew this, which is the real reason why he decides to end Karen Nane. Furthermore, Rika has the same powers as Kuro, so she may very well have died countless times to reach the future they are in now, and according to Koto, Riko has the same power as Kuro, so she believes that Riko was just trying to discover the limits of her powers, juxtaposing one possibility with the other. Out of nowhere, a yokai in the form of a cat appears, and says that Karen Nanes has appeared again. Asaki is startled by the creature, but continues with her duty, driving the vehicle towards the faceless woman. Meanwhile, Rika was taking her own life in search of a perfect future. Kuro finds the ghost and prepares to fight. Koto, on the other hand, prepares to become the greatest liar of all time, aiming to lie to the point that everyone on the internet will believe she is telling the truth. Rika is also ready to die as many times as necessary to find a bright future, and while the two prepare for an online battle, Kuro holds off the ghost of Karen Nanes with all his strength. He is sent away several times, but Kuro does not hesitate to advance and impede the ghost's movements. While he fights, Koto asks Asaki to let her know if Kuro is doing well or badly during the battle. Asaki watches the fight attentively, while Koto focuses on publishing false information about the faceless woman. First, she starts with the case of Terada's death, saying that his death seems to have been faked to create an urban legend, in which the murderous ghost of Karen Nanes does not exist. She waits for some people to see her post on the Faceless Woman website, and then she says that someone must have taken advantage of these ghost rumors to commit murder and get away with it. She says that the culprit dressed up in the face of the Faceless Woman and attacked people. She says that the iron bar is a piece of painted wood, and that the breasts, even bigger than Karen's, are just padding to attract people's attention. The culprit scared people on the street, caused traffic accidents to happen, and hoped that everyone would believe that the ghost was real. The culprit knew that the police wouldn't believe in ghosts, but they would definitely put someone to investigate these cases. The chosen one was Inspector Terada, who suspected a culprit behind everything and started investigating alone. This was exactly what the culprit wanted, because that way the inspector would become the perfect victim. Of course, some anonymous people on the internet say that Karen Nanes is real. Some say that Koto's text is too long. However, some people are interested in her theory and asked her to continue. She then goes on to say that Terada received a call from a false witness who said she saw Karen Nanes, and he went out alone to investigate. At the crime scene, a trap was set up with a piece of sturdy block, and when Terada arrived at the scene, the criminal made the inspector stand in the exact spot where the block would hit him head-on at full speed. The place was dark, and because of that, the inspector didn't notice the block coming towards him. Her lie is convincing enough, and shocks even Saki, as this is the only way a strong inspector like Terada could have died without resisting. An anonymous person asks about the traffic in the area, saying that it would be dangerous for the criminal to do all that and be discovered at any time, more pointedly saying that the criminal must have researched the best time. The anonymous people on the internet ask why the criminal hit Terada from the front, since from behind, his trap would be much more effective, so Akoto says that the trap could have been made to catch him from behind. However, Inspector Terada may have heard a sound, and turned quickly by reflex, which made him receive the blow head-on. Everyone asks more about the trap, but Akoto says that she doesn't know exactly what the killer's intention was, but she is sure that he killed Terada with a trap. Soon after, they ask what the criminal's reason would be for pretending that Terada died with a single blow to the face. Then, Akoto says that the police wouldn't believe a ghost with an inane face, and would look for someone strong enough to defeat Terada with a single blow. So, the police would go after strong people that Inspector Terada had contacted recently. She says that the killer is probably the complete opposite of what the police are looking for, probably being a woman. Continuing, she says that Inspector Terada's killer is probably a woman who knew his height and weight. Maybe a woman who loved him, but he didn't love her back. Or maybe a woman who loved him, but she was afraid of him. With these words, Akoto manages to create a perfect killer for Inspector Terada, all without giving anyone's name. And at the exact moment she says this, Kuro receives a direct hit to his face and dies, probably wanting to find a future where everyone believes Akoto's words. However, Saki realizes that she perfectly matches the description Akoto gave, but Akoto says that she will have to put up with this for a while. Soon after, several people start answering Akoto, saying that they don't believe that a woman is the killer. And then, Akoto explains to Saki that the rich woman must be using her power to find a better future for herself. And this is confirmed when Kuro sees his own cousin choosing the timeline before him. Kuro does his best to choose the timeline he wants to follow, and quickly gets up to continue his battle against the ghost. But after a single death, he finds the perfect way to beat the ghost badly. Saki realizes that even though things seem to have gone wrong, everything is still flowing perfectly. Akoto is still standing ready to answer any question, and Kuro seems to dominate the ghost even more. And when someone asks Akoto a very difficult question, Kuro simply dies. And while Akoto writes an answer, Kuro gets up again, choosing the best possible timeline. This is a true duel of fiction. The second round begins, and this time, Akoto claims that the ghost of Karina Natsu exists. However, she asks everyone why she would return as a ghost and attack people. She asks again what the reason would be for the ghost to attack people, especially an inspector like Terada, who was just doing his job. An anonymous person says that her accidental death should have been enough. However, Akoto says that the police investigation points to Karina Natsu's possible suicide, as if she had accepted her death when she saw the iron bars falling. She says that Karen's ghost would have no reason to kill people, and that just appearing and scaring society would be enough to take revenge for having her image tarnished. Besides, Karen's goal has always been to be famous, and returning as a ghost and gaining everyone's attention would be enough for her. Currently, Karina Natsu's ghost is receiving only negative repercussions. So, Akoto theorizes that Karina Natsu's ghost returned from the dead to show the world that she was not to blame for her father's death. Akoto tells everyone that Karen was wrongly blamed for her father's death, and that the real culprit was never exposed. So everyone who knows her ghost should do their best to find out who was the person who wrongly framed Karen. Akoto reveals that the main suspect is Karen's own father, as he believed that his daughter could do this to him, when in the end it wasn't her who did it. She says that there is no evidence that Karen killed her father, and besides, Karen was working at the time he died. Karen also had no desire to kill her father, as she wanted him to continue living a miserable life alone. She says that Karen's father was a horrible person who stopped working because he wanted a share of his daughter's earnings. Furthermore, while his daughter became successful, he began to feel emotions such as anger, hatred, and envy. He knew that his daughter was special, while he was just a piece of shit. He then thought of faking his own death and leaving a written note saying that his daughter wanted to kill him. In this way, he would end his miserable existence and destroy his daughter's successful life. After that, Karen ended up dying tragically, and in the afterlife, her father revealed the truth, saying that he killed himself. Saki, upon reading this, asks if Koto isn't exaggerating too much with her lies. However, Koto says that someone would have to tell Karen the truth, so that she would return as a ghost. Koto tells everyone that Karen's ghost was filled with hatred, and wanted everyone to know the truth. So, she returned to this world, with the goal of revealing the truth to everyone. She says that everyone should understand Karen's feelings about becoming a ghost, and believe that she did not kill her own father, so that her spirit can finally rest in peace. After she says this, Kuro dies again, this time, being impaled alive. At that very moment, people on the internet start to feel sorry for Karen. Saki can't believe that Koto is succeeding, while Kuro is dying again from a few direct hits to his head. But after getting up, he starts to control the battle against Karen, proving that she has truly lost her strength. However, people on the internet start to confront Koto, proving that the rich girl has not given up yet, and is also looking for her perfect future. But Koto decides to go to round 3, intensifying the duel of fictions even more. Koto then creates her third false hypothesis, saying that Karen is a fake ghost created by a living human being, and that an Inspector Terada was killed by a human. She then starts talking again about Karen Nane's death, saying that there are still some inconsistencies in her death, as there are people who believe that she would not die that way, since according to the course her life was taking, it was quite likely that she would take her own life. However, the fact that her own sister expressed doubts about suicide is something that should be taken into account. At that moment, an anonymous person on the internet says that he saw Karen's sister's interview at the time, and that she seemed to be telling the truth about her sister not wanting to kill herself. Then, Koto says that many family members do not accept the death of their relatives, so it is possible that Karen's sister, even after seeing the body, believed that her sister was alive trying to be at peace, while the one who had died was her lookalike. Everyone finds it hard for something like this to have happened, but since the internet is a crazy place, some people start to believe the nonsense that Koto is saying. Koto says that Karen's sister would also have every reason to believe that her sister would not die so easily, given Karen's profile, who was intelligent, smart, and always bore the burden of being a popular artist well. However, Koto asks everyone if this is the real truth, who would be responsible for leaking Karen's father's notes to the media, and Koto herself says that the only one who could have done that was Karen's own sister Nani's. Koto asks everyone if Karen's younger sister really loved her sister. Furthermore, when the media started to criticize Karen, her sister never defended them, and only confirmed that it was their father's handwriting. So, Koto theorizes that Karen's own sister sent false notes against her sister to the media, taking revenge on her popular sister. But the result of her revenge went beyond those expectations, because her sister refused to accept her death. Karen's sister knew that, in a way, she was the one to blame, and if Karen wanted to take revenge on the culprit, she would be the first target. So, after Karen's death, her sister began to live in constant fear and even hallucinated at the sight of her sister, which caused her to faint in public. Koto had swindled her sister to prevent her sister from being forgotten by everyone, and also to pay for her sins. Karen's sister faked the existence of this ghost and spread false rumors. However, it wasn't Karen's sister who faked the existence of the ghost herself, but rather someone close to her, who perhaps wanted to make Karen's sister believe that Karen Nane's ghost wasn't angry with her sister, but with all the people who didn't believe in her. He killed Inspector Terada, and then may very well have abused Karen's sister, believing that he was somehow doing something beneficial for her. Koto says that this perverted man must be found, and they must urgently confirm if Karen's sister is okay. After Koto creates this fake story, Saki asks if she's okay, and Koto says yes. Then Saki praises her, saying that she's doing a great job, because even though many people online are there just to make fun of everything, the site currently has too many people online. While they were talking, Kuro was trying to strangle Karen Nanes, but he received a powerful kick and immediately had his body split in two, and then Koto said that until now, Karen didn't seem to have lost her strength. And then Rika entered the scene, saying that if that man wanted to make Karen's sister not afraid of her sister's revenge, he would have had to have made Karen Nane's ghost a more peaceful ghost. However, A ghost that carries a steel bar with it in search of revenge is something that would make Karen's sister afraid of being the ghost's last target, not to mention that the murder of Inspector Terada would only scare Karen's sister even more. That's why everything Koto said is nothing more than pure speculation. At the same time that she answered, Kuro was doing his best to try to choose a promising future. He sees his future fading away, and finds a new future and tries to reach it, but that future seems too difficult to reach. Koto realizes that Rika is killing herself several times to win this battle, but Koto is not alone, as she literally has a depressed boy who was dumped by his ex by her side. That's why she doesn't intend to give up, because his will to die is strong. Koto says that Rika may think she's winning, but she's the goddess of wisdom, and ever since her first story was invented, she's been creating a trap to completely end Rika's plans. She says that people may doubt everything she said, including the part about Karen's father and the part about Inspector Terada. However, so far, she hasn't seen anyone suspect the part where she said that it was Karen's sister Nanis who took the text left by their late father and handed it over to the media. She says that Rika can only choose more likely futures, just like Kuro. However, Koto is creating a future that not even she can choose, and so, this battle will finally come to an end. Asaki is shocked that Koto is smart enough to manipulate the future that Rika is choosing, completely forgetting that Kuro is also helping Koto choose a future with each death he has, and this is truly a battle that Asaki cannot see. Because with each future that Kuro loses, Koto creates a new future, giving him a new path that he can safely follow. She then starts the 4th round, and Kuro is already preparing to die. This time, Koto insists to everyone that Karen Nanes is just a work of fiction. She says that her 3 solutions so far are just the basis for reaching the definitive truth. She says that there really is someone behind Karen Nanes' ghost, and that this person also killed Inspector Terada. The anonymous people on the internet seem interested, and some are very uninterested, and then Koto reveals to everyone that the culprit of all this is Karen Nanes herself, saying that the real famous idol is still alive, and that the one who died was someone else. Everyone says that this theory has already been refuted, but Koto insists on her story, telling everyone that after the death of her family, Karen Nanes, who lost her family, was left completely alone, and while she was reflecting on her future on a park bench, she saw a girl who was the same height and had huge cannons as hers. Karen then took advantage of this girl to escape her life as an idol, who is widely suspected of having killed her own father, and to do this, Karen made the girl go to her hotel room and touch all of her things. Soon after, Karen asked the girl to pretend to be her, saying that she wanted her to distract the media in her place. She arranged to meet the girl at that construction site, and then she quickly hit her in the head with a very well-placed blow, and then cruelly killed her, throwing the steel bars on top of the poor girl. And Koto's lie was to explain how Karen Nanes had died, without trying to defend herself from the steel bars that were about to hit her. After that, Karen made the crime scene more convincing, and stole the identity of the girl who looked like her. This theory was really insane, and people on the internet started discussing whether this could really have happened, and since everyone is too stupid to think of something decent, normal about things that happen on the internet, the future that follows ends up being decided between Rika's death and Kuro's death. The two kill themselves at the same time, and this causes 2 different futures to start colliding, with people on the internet arguing madly about this theory. And if I were involved in a forum like this, I would only comment on things like Karen Nanes and my girlfriend, and she is right here next to me, alive. But unlike me, everyone is doing a great job discussing who this ghost really is, and many say that the ghost doesn't really exist, while others continue to strongly believe that she does, and this makes the ghost of the faceless woman start to lose its strength, and Saki smiles thinking that she has already won. However, Koto says that there are still 10 more episodes left to argue on the internet. However, she will do her best to end this in this episode. Then Koto makes the future that Rika was trying to achieve disappear, saying that Karen Nanes herself must have faked the existence of a ghost of hers, mad for revenge, all this to make her death seem even more real. And finally, Koto says that the real owner of this website must be Karen Nanes herself, and that she must be reading their messages right now. She says that the owner of this website spread information quickly, and it was all too convenient, all because the owner of the website himself had real information about Karen Nanes. Koto lies and says she doesn't even feel it, making it seem like she's telling the truth, and Saki herself, reading this, gets scared and wishes she never becomes an enemy of Koto. Saki begins to understand that on these websites there are only crazy people who believe in a ghost, so believing in unreal things is what they should do the most. Koto continues saying that in search of the next place where Karen would appear, the owner of the website went out on the street, finding a perfect place for the ghost's next appearance. She may very well have gone to the place, and Inspector Terada saw her. He thought she looked like the ghost and decided to investigate her, especially since her body had incredible frontal cannons. Saki comments that Terada didn't like big breasts, and Koto complains, saying that Kuro loves big things, and that she doesn't have them. But Saki says that he doesn't judge a woman by the size of her front. Suddenly, Kuro falls on top of the car and gets beaten up, and goes back to fighting with Karen Nanes. Koto continues saying that Terada went to interrogate the girl at that abandoned gas station. She says that Terada must have found out that the girl was Karen Nanes and called her by her name. In response, the girl hit him on the head, all while he was shocked to see someone who had already died alive in this world. After making him fall to the ground, she picked up a rock and hit him in the face, making his death similar to that of the fake Karen Nanes, and then got rid of all the evidence of her crime. As she says this, Kuro lands a good blow on the ghost, creating a gigantic hole in it, and Koto says that if the owner of the website doesn't even have the courage to prove that she isn't Karen Nanes, that just proves that everything she said is real. At the same time, Rika tries to achieve a perfect future again, but everyone believes this lie and starts badmouthing the owner of the website, saying that she manipulated them, and that she must show her face to prove that she isn't Karen Nanes. At the same time, Kuro also died, just to guarantee a better future, and so they finally managed to manipulate everyone's minds, making the internet people stop believing that a ghost of Karen Nanes really exists. Rika, with no more options, ends her day very angry, leaving her blade aside, because she knows that even if she tries to choose another future, she has already lost the battle and cannot change the past. Koto then opens a vote on the website, asking who believes that the ghost of Karen Nanes is still real, and while everyone votes, Kuro tries to deliver the final blow to the creature. The ghost takes the blow directly to its face, and ends up disappearing, finally once and for all. Most people say that they believe that the ghost of Karen Nanes really doesn't exist, and Rika truly accepts her defeat. Saki finally rests, knowing that the ghost won't come back to claim more victims, and suddenly, Koto, who is on Kuro's laptop, receives an email from Rika. She doesn't read the message and only reveals something sad to Saki, saying that Rika won't give up on creating more beings using people's imagination. She says that according to the story that Rika creates, she might be able to give life to even a god, and after this tiring day, Koto gives Kuro a banana, telling him to eat it, because he must be tired. He says that it's Koto who must be tired after creating so many futures for him to cling to, but she says that Saki will see him a little more as a human if he eats the banana. So Kuro does that. However, when he eats her, Koto asks him to serve her with his banana tonight, because what she really wants is under Kuro's pants. He gets embarrassed and asks her not to tell jokes like that anymore. After this problem is solved, the Yukai show up to celebrate with Koto, but she is too tired and so they leave. Inside the car, Kuro apologizes for being too weak and not being able to prevent Terada's death, but she says there was nothing he could do. A few days later, Karen Nanes' website was deleted. However, some people still discuss Karen Nanes' case. The police investigation also had to continue because of Koto's false reports, which forced the police to believe in the possibility that the real Karen Nanes was still alive, even though this was only a possible truth. One night, Kuro invites Saki to talk and reveals to her that unlike him, who has accepted his life with his powers and has faith that in the future he will die of old age, the rich woman wants at all costs to find a way to lose her powers and return to being a normal human, and the only way she has found to do this is by creating a monster of her imagination with the ability to make her become a normal human. But Koto herself says that she will not allow her to do this, and Kuro agrees with her, saying that he will help. They come to the conclusion that what she is trying to do goes against the natural order of things, and Koto says that her duty in life is to mediate what is right and what is wrong, so she cannot allow the rich woman to go around creating gods, demons, and other things of the sort. Before the end, Kuro and Saki talk and come to the conclusion that it would be impossible for the two of them to have any kind of relationship again, because Saki is still afraid of Kuro, and he has already accepted that he should have told her the truth. As always, the man is never right, and now Kuro's biggest fear is that the rich woman will try to end Koto's life, because she is the only person capable of stopping his plans. After that, Saki returns home still afraid of the supernatural, and the next day Koto wakes up after sleeping for a few days. She is sad to think that she gave Kuro and Saki so much time to be together, and while she was taking a shower, Kuro arrived at her apartment, and she ran out in a towel to hug him and ask what he did while she was sleeping. He reveals that he talked a lot with Saki, and irritated, Koto decides to swallow his banana, and show that she must be much better than Saki swallowing banana. After that, they leave the hotel, but Kodo decides not to take a taxi and walk a little with Kuro, and during the walk they talk about some old stories of little importance, which I didn't really understand. After the long conversation, Kuro really compliments Kodo, saying that he thinks she's beautiful, this time without making fun of her smooth body. She gets embarrassed, but this time she plays tsundere, and avoids throwing herself on his lap. After that, they walk hand in hand, and Kodo asks if he would like to have his banana eaten tonight, in response to which he just stays silent. The rain starts to fall, and the anime ends, with Kodo promising to help Kuro solve any problem that Riko creates. She also promises to find Riko before she creates another problem, so that he, Kuro, can talk to his cousin and make her change her mind. Thus, this anime finally ends.